Good ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing God of War 2018 and why it is pretty much perfect. But before we begin, I'd like to say this was my first game in the God of War series and have recently gone back in time to play the rest and can say without hesitation that this is the best one. As a matter of fact, this game has become my second favourite game of all time. I went into this game with no knowledge of God of War past at all, so to see this game have such incredible impact on me, this much is just incredible to say the least. So without further ado, let us dive into this journey between man and boy. So the game begins quite dramatically with a big hairy chinned white man screaming at a tree. After that we ride a boat with our son Atreus and return home to find out that the mother of this child is dead and that we are collecting wood for her cremation. Okay, just stabbed me in the heart like that. But in all seriousness, this scene is phenomenal. It's one of the best openings in video game history. I'm gonna put my foot down on that opinion as well. Something that has so much weight and power in terms of story driving backed with gorgeous visuals, great dialogue, and it's accompanied by top-notch acting and one of the best pieces of music I've ever heard in a video game. It's fantastic. The game has us hooked right away. It feels like we're watching a movie. You know, the great dialogue continues as we are thrown into the tutorial section of the game, where we are taught combat, Atreus commands, and bypassing roadblocks. A simple tutorial, but a fun one. It lays down the fundamentals of the game. It's here that I found myself struggling to adapt to the combat despite how simple it is, however, but I was fresh off of games like FF7 Remake, however, so that could be why. Unlike its predecessors, God of War takes on a more RPG-like focus in its combat and its systems, rather than the established hack and slash, and let me tell you, I prefer this any day over the series' classic formula. I have nothing against hack and slash action, but in all honesty, ARPGs, they're just right up my alley. They're so much more fun, so I really adapted to the game's systems and its combat, and I fell in love with it since it was just so simple yet diverse, and it's systematically detailed and fun the more you play the game. And it's also we see here how different Kratos is to his It's also here we see how different Kratos is to his past self, this time holding back anger in favour of being more strict yet concealed and constructive, although doing it in as little words as possible most times. We see Atreus as a more empathetic character, favouring his mother over Kratos, as we learn quite quickly due to her being not strict and whatnot. But, who cares? The first blow boss just shows up at our front door, and my god, he looks like a North West England football fan. Anyways, this is Baldur. He's in search of someone who we can only assume at this point is Kratos, but this battle gets the player into combat very soundly, and it shows off this game's great dialogue, characterization, battle set pieces, and it does it effortlessly. One epic battle and next snap later, the real journey begins as we set out to the top of Midgard's tallest mountain to spread the ashes of our wife. Oh wait, did I say Midgard? Yeah. So in shocking turn of events, this game takes place in Norse mythology instead of the established Greek mythology, yet it remains canon and it is not a hard reboot. And I'll be honest, this world is a lot more interesting than the Greek one. So the exploration in these small areas is quite restricted and it's a little bit linear, but that's fine since it keeps the objective focused and the narrative going. We are soon introduced to puzzle-like collectible tales, as well as using our fancy new Leviathan axe to our advantage when exploring some stages, which allows us to progress, and it allows us to earn some extra hack silver, which by the way you'll never run out of. We soon meet Brok, my spirit animal.
Brok! What?
And he has one hell of an intro. Plenty of bad words which I sadly can't show due to monetization restrictions. Thanks YouTube. Anyways, we run into some brief errands for him before getting our asses back on the boat and head to the Lake of Nine, which is to be soon the central hub of our endeavours. But not before my megalophobia kicks in, because we are greeted by the lovely Jormungandr after discarding our axe into the lake. So this big snake, better known as the World Serpent, is some ancient beast that has massive significance to the lore, but doesn't do much in terms of gameplay yet apart from look cool. So the water drains, Brok's new home shows up inside Tyr's temple, and we are tasked with exploring out again, this time hunting again. What am I saying? I'm here to tell you why the game's good, not to retell the story and what happens during the game. That's for you guys to find out. I'm going to get into some spoilers here and there, of course, but we don't need to do this. We're going to move on. I'm gonna get more focused here because you guys already know the story of this game more than likely. This isn't really important to the overall rating of a game for me, but I have to say, these visuals are just completely groundbreaking. Easily one of the best looking games out there to date, especially on the PlayStation 5. So straight away we have some extremely, and I mean extremely good storytelling and character building without any dialogue. Kratos looking at bandages on his wrist, seeing them loose, taking deep breaths. This is so good. Like, at first I had no idea what this symbolised, but after going back, I realised this tells people with established knowledge of the series, or who have seen the ending or have played through the game once already, and hints to those who don't, that he's hiding his identity and scars of the past quite literally. He is changed, but he doesn't want to face his past, and that is solidified further by this little nugget. We establish their relationship instantly and how it's sort of complex by Kratos having more of a teacher role since he isn't so good at the whole family man thing, since that didn't work out so well in the past, and he's afraid of the past because of it. And of course, I've already mentioned how good this cremation scene is, as well as the tutorial and boss that follows, so we'll move on. The environments are absolutely gorgeous and they are jam-packed with things to do, both your first time there, as well as mid and post-game tasks. The pacing and progression of the narrative is always very steadily paced, and it progresses in a believable manner. The game will take you around maybe 14 to 15 hours if you completely ignore all the side stuff and whatnot, and if you just focus completely on the narrative, but I would not recommend that personally, since I believe all the side content gives you a lot more character interactions, character development, and everything else that it gives off, including in-game rewards. It's just extremely worth it. So if I was you and you was playing this game, or say you wanted some advice on what to do when playing this game, please do not skip the side quests. They are extremely fun, and I really do believe they're worth your time. The more characters that get introduced as well only expand upon the lore of the world we are in. The dwarves are comical yet fascinating, Freya is an ally yet mysterious, Balder, Magni and Modi are some pretty well done antagonists that are always foreshadowing the greater evils of Thor and all to come in the next game, even if I don't really like Magni and Modi that much. And Mimir, hands down my favourite character. He's packed with hilarious dialogue, lore exposition that feels fine, it's regarding current locations and characters as well as the past and Greek folklore from the past as well as Norse folklore. It's just full of interesting facts and it's a fantastic addition to the journey. And I have to add as well, the way that the world building is done without exposition from Mimir is also incredible. I have to mention it now before I forget, because I didn't put it in the script like an idiot. But the way that you go around the map and you open up these little doors that reveal informations of the past, kind of like cave paintings but on these wooden doors left there by the ancients or whoever else left them there, I'm not entirely sure. But you go around the map, you find these things, or you find relics of the past, such as artifacts that you have to collect. It's so good, it expands upon the world and the lore so much, and the fact that everything gets explained to you then and there by a character, everything is so natural, and I absolutely love it. Mimir only makes things more interesting going forward, since he's the all-seeing, all-knowing type character. And did I mention the world opening up further? Yeah, that's right folks. Not only do we have this massive open world-ish type thing to explore that's full of variety in their design and tasks, but we also have realms. We can visit the cold mists of the afterlife in Helheim, the fiery escapes of Muspelheim, the gorgeous nature and architecture of Alfheim, and the mysterious and challenging Niflheim, with the others locked due to lore purposes. Fast travel is unlocked in the form of this little blue stone that lets us travel in between realms, which is absolutely awesome. Not forgetting to mention the level of attention given to each area we can visit, each being filled with content to do even if some are longer than the others. Character relationships are dynamic, always changing for the better or worse, and it's great. And of course, to bring it back to Kratos, there's plenty of subtle hints towards his past throughout, and we can see how secretive he's being to it about Atreus, which somehow makes him sick, which I don't understand, but I'll allow it. But I can just say the set pieces here are incredible. Just look at this. We are looking at a dead giant. Our destination temple is there, underneath its fingers. It's insane. It's so cool. Anyways, upon realizing the mistake he's making by not telling Atreus he and himself are gods, Kratos faces his biggest fear, that being his past, and he returns home to retrieve the instruments that made him the monster he once was. The Blades of Chaos. The scene that plays during this sees him silently thinking while going down the stream on his boat, while Freya, who we soon gain negative impressions of upon finding out she's a god, is taking care of Atreus. Athena starts playing with Kratos in similar fashion to that of Sephiroth to Cloud, just here getting into his head. But this exchange here
There's nowhere you can hide, Spartan. Put as much distance between you and the truth as you want. It changes nothing. Pretend to be everything you are not. Teacher, husband, Father. But there is one unavoidable truth you will never escape. You cannot change. You will always be a monster.
I know. But I am your monster no longer.
All right, brother.
Now that is character growth. Coming to terms with your past and overcoming it by facing it head on. It's a real life thing that can happen. It's happened to me, and it's not easy to overcome. But when you do overcome it, you see in yourself who you are, and you see in yourself who you can be, what you are capable of. And this here for Kratos is a massive eye-opener, and for the audience as well. This is easily one of the best, if not the best scene in the game. The whole need to do this was to venture into Helheim, to get the ingredients needed to cure Atreus, which is also when Mimir learns that Kratos is the ghost of Sparta after a Zeus vision, which is also a great scene. Upon his healing, Kratos tells him the truth of their identities, handled brilliantly by the cast. You know, this is so incredibly done. It goes against all that Atreus has been taught to this point to hate gods, but we think he takes the news well. But it turns out not so much. You see, this news swiftly turns him into a massive pain in the d-hole, as he seems to have gone mad with the power of the thought that he is actually a god and can do whatever he wants, which of course leads to overconfidence upon seeing Baldur again and gets him almost killed, as well as the gateway to the new endgame Jotunheim destroyed. And to top it all off, we end up back in Helheim. But one great escape later and some insane set pieces, we battle Baldur one last time in one of my favourite fights in gaming history. In Helheim, we learn that Baldur is the son of Freya. She arrives on scene near us by the dead giant to try find him, and sure enough she does. She wants to make amends, but we soon end up fighting Baldur since he wants to kill Freya to make his own amends and whatnot and get his revenge, which is when the tip of a green arrow we acquired very early in the game, which were disposed of by Freya out of the blue, which we thought was very strange because she was very panicky about it. It gets caught in Baldur, and as he punches the last bit of one of them that is stuck in Atreus' quiver that held it together. This is such a good example of bringing things full circle and expanding lore once more. So now the curse of no damage or feeling is healed, and we set out to kill Baldur for good, which is when Freya involves herself even more by making a reincarnation of the dead giant. The battle rages on, scale continues to grow, Atreus even manages to communicate to the world serpent through ancient language, and it makes it aid us in battle. Like, dude, this is so cool. But alas, we do end up sparing Baldur. He tries to choke Freya to death out of vengeance. So, of course, Kratos tries to do the right thing, arguably, and he breaks his neck for good this time. The end of Baldur. And our relationship with Freya, as it seems. She was prepared to die to make amends for what she did to her son, but now she's probably plotting our demise. This cutscene is one of the best I've ever seen in gaming. The acting is so good. And also, this talk between Kratos and Atreus speaks levels of growth and moral.
Boy, listen close. I'm from a land called Sparta. I made a deal with the god that cost me my soul. I killed many who were deserving, and many who were not. I killed my father.
That was your father in hell. Is this what it is to be a god? Is this how it always ends? Sons killing their mothers? Their fathers?
No. We will be the gods we choose to be. Not those who have been. Who I was is not who you be. We must be better.
Well, guess we're the bad guys now.
In her eyes, yes. But she could never make that choice. We should finish this journey while I still have strength.
The engagement in the gameplay here is unheard of. The storytelling is fluent and fantastic. The character building and depth continues even during battle. The emotion felt is so tense, even making me tear up. And the soundtrack, my god. Anyhow, we return to the temple one last time and arrive at Jotunheim, finally spread Mother Frey's ashes atop the tallest peak in all the 9 realms. Admittedly also making me cry. With Kratos also letting go of his past but for good by no longer hiding his scars of who he was. It's here we also find out that the giants really are dead and that Freyr was one of them, which is why she said all the 9 realms are not just Midgard. And that they also tell the future or something like that, there's like murals on the wall, and that Atreus is actually called Loki. The lore just keeps expanding, guys. And no, not Loki like MCU Loki, this is not Thor's son. This is not Thor's brother, and it is not Odin's son. This is a different Loki. Just give Norse Loki a Google. And not forgetting to mention the endgame that teases of Ragnarok and Thor tracking us down. You know, the teases, Fimbulwinter begins for Christ's sake. Right, that's enough. I'm going to stop fanboying now. Just listen. This game should have been impossible to make. How do you continue a world praised series that was basically on its knees after Ascension? You do a reboot that's not actually a reboot, which doesn't make sense. The scale of this game, the world building, the characters, the massive levels of lore, teases for what is to come, all while staying in the same universe as the one we established. The way that the lore is told, built upon through characters, is flawless. The gameplay is superbly designed, the music is breathtaking. God of War deserves its title as Game of the Year 2018 without a doubt. This game manages to have its own unique identity without sacrificing that of the original series. It does not forget its roots. The sheer amount of things to do in and outside the narrative is outstanding and it never gets boring. God of War, simply put, is a masterpiece. A god-tier game that devs only dream of creating. Cory Barlog and his team made so many sacrifices to deliver to us today what we know as God of War 4, and it shows. This game is one of the best games to release in over 20 years, and it will be for a long time. And with a theme song that contains more testosterone than your average male, I do believe I am outclassed here and I shouldn't overstay my welcome since I can't do this game justice in words. Even if it's your first game in the series, do not worry. It was mine as well, yet I still loved it and caught on to many things. And every single game before it is now extremely accessible through PlayStation Now or through emulation. So the only thing I can tell you is go and play God of War 4 right now. This game is a masterpiece, simply put. It's borderline perfect. I don't think I've ever played a game this polished before, this well made. And even though it's not my favourite game of all time, simply because my favourite game of all time has had massive impact on my life and I can't thank it enough for that, so it has more sentimental value to me than God of War does. This certainly has taught me many lessons as well, and it's made my fear of potentially being a father in the future kind of dim. Because of course I am not someone who's traded their soul off to have this immense power or whatnot, to lead an army of Spartans. I'm just a normal human that hasn't had a family in the past and has done terrible things. But I've always feared being a father, and it's not something I really want in life. I don't exactly want to have a child, because it's just not the life for me, I don't think. But in the future, if that time eventually comes, I know it'll be okay, because at the end of the day, the bond between father and son, no matter what your past is, that bond is built upon mutual trust and the times of today, not the times of your yesterday. God of War taught me that lesson, and I will be thankful for that forever if I eventually do end up becoming a father or whatnot. It's just, this game just speaks levels to us as a species, humans. Even if these two are gods, we feel, we can relate to them in some sense. They feel human, and that's what really impresses me about this game. It doesn't hold back, and it makes a fantasy setting feel real without having to strip away the fantasy. I know I'm waffling on, but I just had to get that off my chest now. So yeah, God of War 4. Absolute 10 out of 10 game. It's a masterpiece, and it's one of the only games in recent history that I've actually been bothered to platinum trophy. So yeah, please, I beg of you, go and play God of War 4. PlayStation 4s now, they aren't that expensive, alright? And this game is going cheap as well. So, or if you have a PlayStation 5, it's free on the PS Plus collection. You owe it to yourself to play this game if you haven't already.
Wow, that was something, that fight. Here, catch. Well, that was a waste of a perfectly good hour.